So I'm here in Melbourne. It's currently December 2024, but obviously it's their summer out here, so it's nice and bright. I wanted to go through 6 lessons in business that I wish I knew earlier. So these are like the 6 things that I would say will help you make the biggest impact in business or just life in general. I'm going to go through them. I was actually reading a story about Napoleon Hill. Now, if you don't know who Napoleon Hill is, he wrote probably one of the most popular self-help books of all time. It sold over 100 million copies. That book was called Think and Grow Rich. Now, before he actually wrote that book, he had wrote a book called The 16 Laws of Success. Now, the top 3 laws in that same book that he'd wrote were similar to the sort of things that I've came up with, which is quite ironic, but I actually don't think it is, because these laws and sort of lessons that you want to learn by and sort of stand by, and these things that you want to follow, they work for everyone. So it doesn't matter who you are or what you've done or what industry you're in, it should work for everyone. So the number 1 rule I would say is most important is find people that have already done what you want to do and then just copy them. So this is so underlooked but overlooked at the same time. It's like networking, but you've got to actually ask yourself, when was the last time that you even went to a business event? I know the business event tickets can be quite pricey sometimes, like £200 or £300, but honestly, just pay it, just pay the price. I remember I went to a business event back in, I think it was 2021, and I ended up meeting my business partner who I work with now, and without me actually even going to that event, then I wouldn't be where I am right now. There's so many different situations that are similar to that. Like, for instance, you've got Eduardo Severin, who was in the dorm room of Mark Zuckerberg back in Harvard. There was about 10 guys in that dorm room, but he was the guy that actually gave Mark Zuckerberg the $15,000 it was, I think, at the time. That was back in, I believe, like 2003, 2004, and that now equates to about like 15 billion, something crazy like that. It's like the best return on investment anyone's ever made. He ended up buying £30,000, 30%. He bought 30% of Facebook for literally 15,000. So it's all about getting yourself in these positions, and you can only do that by actually putting yourself out there, by putting yourself in these situations of luck or of opportunity. So number 2 is focus is the currency. In the book 16 Laws of Success by Napoleon Hill, he actually says define a clear aim, which they do correlate. I mean, one is like, focus is just clarity. It's clarity on what you're actually doing and going towards that. And focus for me is like, so many people at the start do so many different things, whether that's drop shipping, e-com, there's literally, they do so many different sort of ventures, when it's probably a good thing at the start because you want to find out what you want to do. But once you find something that's working, you need to just double down on it and decide, like this is what I'm going to do, and focus 100% on one thing, and don't let anything else come into your head. Just focus on one thing. It's like in Apple with Steve Jobs. In 1997, they were on the edge of bankruptcy, and then 1998, they basically came up out the iMac, and that's because Steve Jobs famously wrote Pro, Consumer, desktop and portable. He put 4 quadrants on a board, and then he slashed 70% of the products, and he says, right, we're just going to focus on these categories. This is what we're going to focus on. This is our bread and butter. And that's then what turned Apple around back in the early days, and that's what made it into what it is today. And it's because you need to get a clear focus on exactly what you want and how you're going to get it. So get an aim, focus towards something, and go for it. So number 3 is you need to have complete self-belief in yourself and what you're doing. This is a big one now. In the 16 Laws of Success, the actual title is self-confidence. So again, to have that self-confidence to take things forward, you need to have that sort of relentless need for success, where you just go and get it, where you're not going to be stopped. Again, it's like, I always think in my head, one of my favourite quotes is, you can't lose if you don't quit. It's literally virtually impossible to lose, because you just keep going, you'll get there eventually. And that's what self-belief and self-confidence is all about. J.K. Rowling is like a really famous story from her. is she went to 12 different publishers with Harry Potter, and they kept on turning her down, turning her down, turning her down. It wasn't until 1997 that so a publisher actually took her on. I think the publisher was called Bloomsbury, and they basically gave her an advance of £1,500 as they explained to her that, you know, children's books don't even sell that well. You know, J.K. Rowling went on to become the first billionaire author, sold over 500 million copies, and it was Harry Potter, one of the most successful books of all time. But if she had let, like, you know, the third or the fourth or even the 8th, 9th, 11th time, if she had let that get into her head and just stopped that relentless self-belief, then she wouldn't be where she is today. So you need to have that relentless self-belief in everything that you do. So this is number 4, one of my favourite ones, which is focus on income producing tasks, right? So this is like, again, it kind of goes back to the focus one. Focus is the currency, but it's like you need to focus on what makes money. So many people are like busy fools. They'll be sitting and they'll be doing so many different tasks and thinking that they're working. You know, they'll start a business and they're like, oh, you know, let's make an Instagram page. Let's put some nice photos on it and put up my story and ask my friends to share it. That's not going to make you money. That's not going to build a business. You want to focus on an income producing task. Warren Buffett says, like, there's a famous quote where he basically says the difference between a successful person and a very successful person is a very successful person knows when to say no. So you need to think about all these. Your brain will try and trick you. It'll come up with all these sort of silly sort of time wasting things of, oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? It's like you need to ask yourself, does this task produce income? And if the answer is no, don't do it. Usually, like, especially at the start of a business, you want to go out and just get clients. Like, am I getting clients? Am I making money? Like, does this actually make money? Designing a cute website, that doesn't make money. I remember when I went and seen a lot of my mates, they all had e-com stores, and at this point I was really into sort of like design and like you know, making things look really pretty. And all their websites, like, were making hundreds of thousands, probably millions per month. I know one of the guys that sold his website for 3.8 million. I looked at this website and I'm like, the thing just looks terrible. Do you know what I mean? My website was so much nicer looking, I had so many different better features, but one made money and one didn't, right? And it's like, because I was focusing on things that weren't important. So you've got to focus on income producing tasks, focus on what is important. Do not work hard, work smart, work on things that are actually going to make you money. So number 5 is chase pain, chase what is painful. Often the things that are the most painful to do, like such as cold calling prospects, phoning people, getting on the phones, actually having that awkward conversation or trying to sell someone your service, they're going to actually yield you the highest returns. So yeah, try and find out what's the most painful thing that you could do that day, and actually just go and do it, because do what people aren't doing. Most people don't want to be doing the tough stuff. You know, like Elon Musk, he's massive for this. He often talks about choosing the path of the greatest resistance, often creates the most extraordinary results. For instance, you know, he sold out of PayPal for about 180 million. He took hundreds of million of that, put it into a SpaceX, the rocket company, took 70 million, put it into Tesla, and 10, and then put it into Solar City. 3 different companies, like, that almost contradicts some of the points I made in this video, but that's like the most difficult thing that he could have done. He risked it all, he put all the chips back on the table, and that's why he's currently the most wealthy person that's ever existed. And it's because he's willing to, you know, chase the pain. He's willing to do the most difficult things. So number 6 is perfectionism is the enemy of progress. This kind of aligns with a lot of other points that I've made. But what I've found is trying to get something perfect always results in you not doing it. And life is just inputs and outputs. So it's what you put in and what you get back. If you've done like 1,000 TikToks across the year, then of course you're going to get better results. If you focus on 3 and you just got the 3, like, and try to make them really, really good. So, you know, it was, you know, Reid Hoffman, who is the CEO and founder of LinkedIn. He actually has a quote where he says, if you're not embarrassed about the first version of your product, then you've probably launched it too late. And I totally believe that. I think that you know, when even like this video that I'm doing now, I've been putting it off, and as you can see, it's getting dark now. And I thought, you know what, I'll just write it down, script it out, and just get it done. And it's always best just to get the video done, get it put out, and focus on actually just pushing things forward as opposed to getting caught up in all the perfectionism. And that's probably been one of my biggest killers that I've had personally, is I want to try and have everything looking really good, like websites and whatnot, and it's always been a massive waste of time. The guys that I've seen that have been the most successful, they often just literally just, it's like a scrappy, like get it done, like get it, move on, get it ticked off the list, move on to the next thing, move on to the thing that makes money. Don't be messing about trying to make it perfect, because trying to like get it better, that perfectionism is like a 5%er. It's never going to make, you know, a huge amount of money for you. But yeah, that's the full list there from number 1 to number 6. I hope you found it useful. I thought it was good just to kind of take it down and then basically get it on a video, so I can watch it back later if I need to. But yeah, that's my 6 sort of laws of what makes someone successful.